The rain fell hard that night, the kind that drowns out the noise of the world. He sat alone on a broken bench, staring at his phone. No messages. No calls. Just silence from the very people he once gave everything to. Hours earlier, they had laughed with him. Now, they acted like he never existed. His chest felt heavy, his mind racing with questions that had no answers. "What did I do wrong?" he whispered into the storm. But then something shifted. He looked up, wiped his face, and realized something most people never understand in a lifetime. The pain wasn't coming from them. It was coming from how much power he had given them. In that moment, he made a quiet decision. He would never again hand over his peace to people who hadn't earned it. That night didn't break him. It woke him up. If you've ever felt ignored, rejected, or hurt by people you trusted, then what you're about to learn will change everything. Not because it will make the world softer, but because it will make you stronger. Pain is not your enemy. It's your teacher. Most people spend their lives trying to avoid it, running from discomfort, begging for approval, and chasing validation. But the truth is simple. The more you depend on others for your happiness, the more control they have over your emotions. Stoicism teaches something different. It teaches that your peace is your responsibility. No one can take it unless you allow them to. Think about it. When someone insults you, what actually hurts? Is it their words, or your interpretation of those words? When someone ignores you, is it their silence, or the meaning you attach to it? The moment you realize that your reactions create your suffering, you unlock a level of freedom most people never reach. You stop reacting. You start choosing. You stop chasing. You start attracting. You stop breaking. You start becoming unshakable. One of the most powerful shifts you can make is this: stop expecting people to act the way you would. Not everyone has your heart. Not everyone has your loyalty. And once you accept that, disappointment loses its grip on you. People will lie. People will leave. People will change. But none of that has to destroy you. Because your strength does not come from controlling others. It comes from mastering yourself. Imagine waking up each day without needing approval. Imagine not caring who stays or leaves. Imagine being so grounded within yourself that nothing external can disturb your inner peace. That's not coldness. That's power. Detachment is not about not caring. It's about caring wisely. It's about investing your energy where it's respected, not where it's wasted. It's about knowing your worth without needing anyone else to confirm it. When you master detachment, you stop begging for attention. You stop over-explaining yourself. You stop trying to convince people to see your value. You simply become. And those who recognize it will come. Those who don't will fade away, and that will no longer bother you. Another truth most people avoid is this: you cannot control what people think about you. You can be kind, loyal, honest, and still be misunderstood. So why waste your energy trying to manage opinions that were never yours to control? Instead, focus on what you can control. Your thoughts. Your actions. Your discipline. Your response. That's where your real power lies. The moment you shift your focus inward, everything changes. You stop being a victim of circumstances and start becoming the architect of your life. You begin to realize that rejection is not a loss, it's protection. That being ignored is not an insult, it's redirection. That pain is not punishment, it's preparation. Every experience, no matter how painful, is shaping you into someone stronger, wiser, and more resilient. But only if you allow it. Most people stay stuck because they resist reality. They argue with what is instead of accepting it and moving forward. Stoicism teaches acceptance, not as weakness, but as strength. You accept what you cannot change, and you dominate what you can. That's how you win. Discipline is another key most people overlook. Emotional strength is not built overnight. It's built through daily habits. Through choosing growth over comfort. Through doing what's necessary even when you don't feel like it. You train your mind the same way you train your body. Consistency creates control. And control creates freedom. When your mind is disciplined, you don't react impulsively. You don't let emotions dictate your decisions. You observe, you think, and then you act with intention. That's how you become untouchable. Not because nothing hurts you, but because nothing controls you. Silence also becomes your weapon. Not every situation needs your reaction. Not every insult deserves your attention. Sometimes the most powerful move is to say nothing and walk away. Your energy is valuable. Stop giving it to people who drain it. Start investing it in yourself. Growth requires solitude. It requires time alone with your thoughts, your goals, and your vision. It requires stepping away from noise so you can hear your own voice. And when you do, something incredible happens. You become clear. You become focused. You become unstoppable. You stop fearing loneliness because you realize it's not loneliness, it's independence. And independence is where true confidence is built. The kind of confidence that doesn't need validation. The kind that doesn't break under pressure. The kind that makes you walk into any room knowing you belong there. At the end of the day, the goal is not to avoid pain. The goal is to become someone who cannot be destroyed by it. Someone who learns from every experience. Someone who grows through every challenge. Someone who remains calm in chaos. That's the power of Stoicism. And that power is available to you. But only if you choose it. If you're ready to stop being controlled by your emotions. If you're ready to stop chasing people who don't value you. If you're ready to build a mindset that nothing and nobody can break. Then this is your turning point. Subscribe to this channel for more powerful lessons like this, and start building the kind of life where your peace is protected, your mind is strong, and your value is undeniable. Because once you master this, nothing and nobody will ever hurt you again. There will come a moment when everything you once depended on begins to fall away. The people, the validation, the comfort, the illusions. At first, it will feel like loss. Like life is stripping you of something you need to survive. But what if it's not loss? What if it's removal? What if everything being taken from you was never meant to stay? This is where most people break. They cling harder. They chase louder. They beg for things that are already gone. But the Stoic understands something deeper. When life removes something, it creates space. And that space is not empty, it's an invitation. An invitation to rebuild. An invitation to redefine who you are without depending on anyone else. Because the truth is, as long as your identity is tied to people, you will always be vulnerable. The moment they leave, you lose yourself. That's why you must build an identity that stands on its own, solid, independent, and unshaken. You are not who people say you are. You are not your past. You are not your failures. You are what you choose to become every single day. And that choice is always in your control. One of the hardest lessons to accept is that not everyone is meant to understand you. Some people will misjudge you. Some will doubt you. Some will even try to bring you down. Let them. Their opinions are reflections of their own limitations, not your potential. The Stoic doesn't waste time correcting every misunderstanding. Instead, they focus on living in a way that needs no explanation. They let their actions speak louder than words ever could. Because real power is quiet. It doesn't need to prove itself. It simply exists. When you begin to operate from this place, something shifts. You stop seeking approval, and you start setting standards. You stop asking, "Do they like me?" and start asking, "Do they deserve access to me?" That question alone will change your life. Because not everyone deserves your time, your energy, or your presence. And once you understand that, you become selective, intentional, protected. You no longer allow just anyone into your space. You choose carefully. You observe more. You trust actions over words. And most importantly, you become comfortable walking away from anything that disrupts your peace. That's not arrogance. That's self-respect. Another truth you must embrace is this: people treat you based on what you tolerate. If you tolerate disrespect, you will receive more of it. If you tolerate inconsistency, you will attract more confusion. If you tolerate being undervalued, you will continue to feel invisible. But the moment you raise your standards, everything changes. Not because people suddenly become better, but because you stop accepting less. You teach people how to treat you by what you allow. So choose wisely. And don't be afraid to walk away when those standards are not met. Walking away is not weakness. It's strength in its purest form. It takes courage to leave what is familiar. It takes discipline to let go of what once mattered. It takes self-worth to choose yourself over temporary comfort. And every time you do, you reinforce a powerful message to yourself. I matter. That message builds confidence. And confidence builds freedom. You begin to realize that you don't need to force anything. You don't need to chase. You don't need to prove your value to anyone who refuses to see it. What is meant for you will not require you to beg. It will align. It will flow. It will stay. This doesn't mean life becomes easy. Challenges will still come. People will still disappoint you. Situations will still test your patience. But the difference is, you will no longer be shaken by them. Because your foundation is strong. You've built it within. You understand that external events are unpredictable, but your internal response is always yours to control. And that control is your greatest weapon. When something goes wrong, you don't panic. You pause. You observe. You respond with clarity instead of emotion. That pause, that moment of control, is where your power lives. Most people never find it. They react instantly. They let emotions take over. They say things they regret. They make decisions that cost them peace. But you become different. You become deliberate. And that changes everything. Gratitude also becomes part of your strength. Not the surface-level kind, but a deeper understanding that every experience, good or bad, is shaping you. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this teaching me?" That shift alone turns pain into purpose. It transforms setbacks into stepping stones. It turns every obstacle into an opportunity for growth. And when you live like that, nothing is wasted. Every moment becomes valuable. Every experience becomes meaningful. You begin to see life not as something happening to you, but something happening for you. That perspective is rare. And it's powerful. As you continue this journey, you'll notice something else. You'll become less reactive, less emotional, less affected by things that once disturbed you deeply. Not because you've become cold, but because you've become centered, grounded, in control. You don't need constant attention. You don't need constant reassurance. You don't need constant validation. Because you've learned to give those things to yourself. And that self-sufficiency is what makes you unbreakable. At this point, you're no longer the same person who sat in the rain, waiting for someone to care. You've evolved. You've grown. You've mastered something most people never do. Yourself. And that mastery is what protects you. Not from pain, but from being controlled by it. So if you've made it this far, understand this, you're already on a different path. A stronger path. A path that leads to clarity, confidence, and complete control over your life. Stay on it. Keep building. Keep growing. And if you want more powerful insights like this, insights that will sharpen your mind, strengthen your emotions, and elevate your life, make sure you subscribe to this channel. Because this is where transformation begins. And this is where you become unstoppable. There is a stage in this journey where silence becomes louder than noise. You'll start noticing things you once ignored. The way people speak when they don't need anything from you. The way energy shifts when your presence is no longer convenient to them. The way respect is given, or withheld, based on what you tolerate. And instead of reacting, you observe. This is where your awareness sharpens. You stop taking everything personally. You begin to see patterns instead of isolated events. You realize that people act from who they are, not from who you are. And that realization frees you. Because now, you no longer internalize every action. You don't carry the weight of other people's behavior on your shoulders. You simply see it for what it is, and you decide whether it deserves your attention. Most of the time, it doesn't. You start protecting your mind the way people protect their valuables. You become careful about what you allow in, the conversations you entertain, the environments you stay in, the people you give access to. Because you understand something powerful, your environment shapes your state of mind. And your state of mind shapes your life. So you become intentional. You choose peace over drama, clarity over confusion, growth over comfort. This doesn't mean you'll never feel anger, sadness, or disappointment. You will. You're human. But the difference now is, you won't be controlled by those emotions. You'll feel them, understand them, and then release them. That's emotional mastery. You no longer suppress your feelings, but you also don't let them dictate your actions. You create space between what you feel and what you do. And in that space, you find control. This is where most people fail. They react instantly. They let a temporary emotion create permanent consequences. But you pause. You give yourself time. You choose your response carefully. And that alone sets you apart. Another shift begins to happen. You stop needing closure from people who hurt you. You realize that closure is not something they give you. It's something you give yourself. Waiting for an apology that may never come keeps you stuck. Hoping someone will finally understand you keeps you attached. But the moment you decide, I'm done, without needing anything in return, that's when you truly move on. That's when you reclaim your power. You begin to understand that not all endings require explanation. Some things end simply because they are no longer aligned with who you are becoming. And that's okay. Growth requires letting go. It requires outgrowing people, habits, and even versions of yourself that once felt comfortable. But comfort is not where transformation happens. Transformation happens in discomfort. In discipline. In the moments when you choose what's right over what's easy. And every time you make that choice, you strengthen your character. You become more resilient, more focused, more in control. At some point, you'll notice that the things that once hurt you don't affect you the same way anymore. The same words, the same actions, the same situations. But now, there's a distance, a calmness, a sense of control. And that's when you know, you're changing. Not on the surface, but at your core. You've built something within yourself that cannot be easily shaken. And people will notice. Some will respect it. Some will be confused by it. Some may even feel intimidated by it. But that's not your concern. You're no longer living to be understood by everyone. You're living to be aligned with yourself. That alignment becomes your compass. It guides your decisions. It protects your peace. It keeps you grounded, even when everything around you feels uncertain. And once you have that, you stop fearing loss. Because you know that no matter what happens externally, you will always have yourself. And that is enough. More than enough. At this level, you don't just react less, you expect less. Not in a negative way, but in a grounded, realistic way. You understand human nature. You understand that people are imperfect. That they will make mistakes, act out of emotion, and sometimes disappoint you. But instead of being shocked by it, you accept it. And that acceptance protects you. Because expectations create attachment, and attachment creates suffering. So you learn to engage without becoming dependent. To care without losing yourself. To give without expecting anything in return. That's freedom. And from that freedom comes a different kind of happiness. Not the loud, temporary kind, but a quiet, steady kind. The kind that doesn't depend on circumstances. The kind that stays. You begin to enjoy your own company. You don't rush to fill every moment with noise or distraction. You find peace in stillness. You find clarity in solitude. And in that space, you grow even more. You reflect. You refine. You evolve. Day by day, you become sharper, stronger, and more self-aware. You stop repeating the same mistakes because you've taken the time to understand them. You stop falling into the same traps because you've learned to recognize them. You stop losing yourself because you've finally found who you are. And once you reach that point, something powerful happens. You stop fearing being hurt. Not because pain disappears, but because you've built the strength to handle it. You trust yourself. You trust your ability to recover, to adapt, to grow. And that trust removes fear. Because the only thing that truly makes pain unbearable is the belief that you won't survive it. But now you know better. You've been through enough to understand that you will always come out stronger. So you move differently. You speak less, but with more intention. You act less impulsively, but with more precision. You give less energy, but with more purpose. Everything becomes more controlled, more refined, more powerful. And at this point, you're no longer just learning Stoicism, you're living it. It's no longer something you watch or read. It's something you embody. Every decision, every reaction, every thought reflects a level of control that most people never reach. And that's what makes you different. That's what makes you untouchable. So if you're still here, still reading, still committed to becoming stronger, then understand this: you are already ahead of most people. But don't stop here. Keep going. Keep refining your mind. Keep protecting your peace. Keep building the version of yourself that nothing and nobody can break. And if you want to continue this journey, if you want more powerful insights that will elevate your mindset and transform your life, make sure you subscribe to this channel. Because this is more than content. This is a mindset. This is discipline. This is transformation. And this is where you become the kind of person the world can no longer control. There will be days when the old version of you tries to return. Days when you feel the urge to chase, to explain, to seek validation from people who have already shown you who they are. It will feel familiar. Comfortable, even. But don't confuse familiarity with growth. Growth often feels uncomfortable. It asks you to choose silence when you want to argue. It asks you to walk away when you want to stay. It asks you to let go when everything in you wants to hold on. This is the real test. Not when things are easy, but when your emotions are pulling you in the opposite direction of your discipline. And in those moments, you must remember who you are becoming. You are not the person who begs for attention. You are not the person who tolerates disrespect. You are not the person who loses control over temporary feelings. You are evolving beyond that. Every time you resist the urge to fall back into old habits, you reinforce your strength. You prove to yourself that you are in control. Not your emotions, not your past, not other people. You. And that realization builds something powerful within you: self-trust. Self-trust is what allows you to move through life with confidence. It's what keeps you grounded when everything around you feels uncertain. It's what gives you the courage to walk alone when necessary. Because you know you can rely on yourself. And once you have that, you stop settling. You stop accepting half-effort, half-truths, and half-respect. You begin to demand alignment, consistency, and honesty, not just from others, but from yourself. Because Stoicism is not just about how you handle others. It's about how you hold yourself accountable. Are you disciplined when no one is watching? Do you keep your word to yourself? Do you act in alignment with your values, even when it's difficult? These are the questions that define your character. Because at the end of the day, your relationship with yourself sets the standard for every other relationship in your life. If you disrespect yourself, others will follow. If you doubt yourself, others will sense it. But if you stand firm in your values, calm, confident, and controlled, people will either respect you or remove themselves. Either way, you win. There's also a deeper level to this journey that many people overlook: mastering your thoughts. Not every thought deserves your attention. Not every idea in your mind is true. Sometimes your mind will replay old memories, create worst-case scenarios, or whisper doubts that try to pull you back into fear. But you are not your thoughts. You are the observer of your thoughts. And once you understand that, you stop believing everything that crosses your mind. You question it. You challenge it. You replace it. Instead of thinking, "I'm not good enough," you remind yourself, "I am growing, and that's enough." Instead of thinking, "They don't value me," you shift to, "I value myself enough to walk away." This is mental discipline. And mental discipline creates emotional stability, which leads to something most people are desperately searching for: peace. Not temporary peace, but lasting peace. The kind that doesn't disappear when things go wrong. The kind that stays even when life becomes unpredictable. Because it's built from within. At this point, your focus shifts even more. You become less interested in proving yourself to others and more focused on improving yourself daily. You invest in your mind, your habits, your purpose. You wake up with intention. You move with clarity. You spend your time building something meaningful instead of chasing things that drain you. And over time, the results become visible. Not just externally, but internally. You feel stronger, more stable, more in control. And people will start to notice the difference. They may not understand it, but they will feel it. Your presence becomes different. Calmer, more grounded, more powerful. You no longer need to speak loudly to be heard. Your energy speaks for you. And that energy comes from discipline, self-respect, and inner peace. But don't get comfortable. Growth doesn't stop. There will always be new levels, new challenges, new tests. Life will continue to push you, to stretch you, to see if you will fall back into old patterns. And sometimes you might. You might react when you should have paused. You might overthink when you should have let go. You might give energy where it wasn't deserved. And that's okay. Progress is not perfection. The goal is not to be flawless. The goal is to be aware. To catch yourself faster. To correct yourself quicker. To return to your center stronger. Every setback is a lesson. Every mistake is feedback. And every experience is part of your growth. So don't judge yourself too harshly. Learn. Adjust. Move forward. Because the person you are becoming is built through consistency, not perfection. And as you continue on this path, something incredible happens. You stop trying to control everything. You stop forcing outcomes. You stop stressing over things that are outside your control. Instead, you focus on your effort, your mindset, your actions, and you trust the process. That trust brings a new level of calm into your life. A calm that says, no matter what happens, I will handle it. And that belief is unshakable. Because it's not based on hope, it's based on experience. You've been through enough to know that you can survive, adapt, and grow through anything. So you stop fearing the future. You stop holding on to the past. You become present, focused, aware, alive. And in that state, nothing and nobody can truly hurt you. Not because pain disappears, but because you've mastered how to respond to it. You've taken control of the only thing that truly matters, yourself. So keep going. Keep building. Keep mastering your mind and your emotions. And if you're serious about becoming this version of yourself, strong, calm, disciplined, and free, then make sure you subscribe to this channel. Because this journey doesn't end here. There's always another level. And together, we're going to reach it. At some point, you'll notice something subtle but powerful. The things that used to shake you no longer have the same effect. Situations that once kept you awake at night now pass through your mind like a quiet breeze. Conversations that once triggered you now feel distant, almost irrelevant. And you won't even realize when it happened. That's how real growth works. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't demand attention. It simply shows up in the way you respond differently to the same situations that once controlled you. You'll catch yourself staying calm where you used to react. Walking away where you used to argue. Letting go where you used to hold on. And in those small moments, you'll realize you've changed. Not because life got easier, but because you got stronger. This is the reward of discipline. This is what happens when you consistently choose growth over comfort, awareness over reaction, and control over chaos. But here's the part most people don't talk about. As you grow, your circle may get smaller. Not everyone will align with the new version of you. Some people were only meant for the version of you that tolerated less, that questioned less, that settled more. And when you stop being that person, they may drift away. Let them. You're not here to maintain connections that require you to shrink yourself. You're here to evolve, to expand, to become everything you're capable of becoming. And that sometimes means outgrowing people. It's not personal. It's necessary. Because the more aligned you become with your values, the less you'll be able to tolerate anything that contradicts them. You'll start noticing the difference between genuine connections and surface-level interactions. You'll feel the gap between people who respect your boundaries and those who constantly test them. And instead of trying to fix it, you'll simply choose differently. That's power. You no longer try to change people. You change your standards. You change your responses. You change your environment. And in doing so, your life begins to reflect that shift. Opportunities become clearer. Your mind becomes sharper. Your decisions become more intentional. And your energy becomes more focused. This is where purpose starts to take shape. When you're no longer distracted by drama, validation, or unnecessary attachments, you have more time and energy to invest in what truly matters. Your goals. Your growth. Your vision. You stop living reactively and start living proactively. You wake up with direction. You move with intention. You build with consistency. And over time, the results speak for themselves. Not just in what you achieve, but in who you become. A person who is disciplined. A person who is calm under pressure. A person who is not easily influenced or controlled. A person who knows their worth and acts accordingly. That's rare. And because it's rare, it stands out. People will feel your presence before you even speak. They'll notice your composure, your focus, your ability to remain steady in situations that would shake others. Some will admire it. Some will question it. Some may even try to challenge it. But none of that will matter. Because you're no longer looking outward for validation. You're rooted within. You understand that your value is not determined by opinions, attention, or external success. It's determined by your character. By your discipline. By your ability to remain true to yourself, no matter the circumstances. And once you reach this level, something else becomes clear. You don't need to prove anything. Not your strength. Not your worth. Not your growth. You simply live it. Every day. Quietly. Consistently. And that consistency builds a life that doesn't rely on temporary highs or external approval. It builds stability. It builds confidence. It builds freedom. Freedom from needing people to understand you. Freedom from needing situations to go your way. Freedom from being controlled by emotions or circumstances. This is the ultimate goal. Not to control the world, but to control yourself within it. Because when you control yourself, the world loses its power over you. And at that point, nothing and nobody can truly hurt you. They can act. They can speak. They can leave. But they can't break you. Because you've built something stronger than anything external. You've built yourself. So as you continue on this journey, remember this. Guard your mind. Protect your peace. Choose your energy wisely. And never forget the power of your own discipline. Because everything you're building, every habit, every mindset, every decision, is shaping the person you're becoming. And that person is not weak. That person is not easily shaken. That person is focused, calm, and in control. So keep going. Keep rising. Keep mastering what most people ignore, their own mind. And if you're committed to becoming this version of yourself, to building unshakable confidence and lasting inner peace, then make sure you subscribe to this channel. Because this is where you don't just watch transformation. You live it. And once you do, there's no going back. And then, something even deeper begins to unfold. You stop trying to be seen. Not because you doubt yourself, but because you no longer need the spotlight to confirm your value. You understand that real strength isn't loud. It doesn't demand attention. It doesn't chase recognition. It builds in silence. You begin to move differently. You don't announce your plans. You don't explain your every decision. You don't seek permission to grow. You simply do the work. And in that quiet focus, you become dangerous in the best way possible. Not to others, but to your old limitations. Because now your progress is not driven by emotion. It's driven by discipline. You show up even when you don't feel like it. You stay consistent even when results are slow. You remain focused even when distractions try to pull you away. This is where most people fall off. They rely on motivation, and when it fades, so do their efforts. But you've moved beyond that. You've built systems, habits, standards. You don't negotiate with your goals, you commit to them. And that commitment separates you from the majority. At this stage, your relationship with time changes. You stop wasting it on things that don't add value. Endless scrolling, meaningless conversations, unnecessary drama, none of it interests you anymore. Not because you think you're better than others, but because you've realized how valuable your time truly is. Every moment becomes intentional. Every action has purpose. And slowly, your life starts to reflect that clarity. You build momentum. You stack small wins. You create a rhythm that keeps you moving forward, even when things aren't perfect. And that consistency becomes your advantage. Because while others are starting and stopping, you're steady. While others are distracted, you're focused. While others are reacting, you're creating. This is how transformation becomes permanent. Not through one big change, but through daily discipline. Through showing up again and again, even when it's hard. Through choosing growth, even when comfort is easier. And as you continue, you'll notice something else. Your tolerance for negativity drops. You can't stay in environments that drain you. You can't entertain conversations that lack depth. You can't engage in patterns that pull you backward. It's not that you're avoiding life, it's that you're choosing better. Better habits. Better environments. Better standards. And those choices elevate everything. Your mindset sharpens. Your energy stabilizes. Your direction becomes clearer. And with that clarity comes confidence. Not the loud, attention-seeking kind, but a quiet, grounded confidence that comes from knowing you're in control of your path. You don't need to rush. You don't need to compare. You don't need to prove. Because you trust your process. And that trust makes you patient. Patient with your growth. Patient with your results. Patient with yourself. You understand that everything takes time. That real change is built slowly. That lasting strength is developed through repetition, not shortcuts. And because of that, you stop looking for quick fixes. You stop chasing instant gratification. You focus on what truly matters. And over time, that focus compounds. Your discipline strengthens. Your mind sharpens. Your life improves. Not overnight, but inevitably. This is the power of consistency. It may not feel exciting in the moment, but it creates results that last. Results that no one can take from you. Because they're built from within. At this level, you're no longer trying to escape pain, you're learning how to use it. You turn setbacks into lessons. You turn failures into feedback. You turn challenges into opportunities. Nothing is wasted. Everything becomes part of your growth. And that mindset makes you resilient. Unshakable. Because no matter what happens, you know you'll find a way to grow from it. You no longer fear being hurt. You no longer fear being alone. You no longer fear uncertainty. Because you've built something stronger than all of that. You've built yourself. So now, when life tests you, and it will, you don't crumble. You stand. Calm. Focused. In control. And you handle it. Not perfectly, but powerfully. That's the difference. You don't need everything to go your way. You just need to stay grounded in who you are. And who you are now is someone who doesn't break easily. Someone who doesn't lose themselves in chaos. Someone who doesn't hand over their peace to anyone. That's mastery. That's strength. That's freedom. So keep going. Keep showing up. Keep building this version of yourself that refuses to settle, refuses to be controlled, refuses to go back to who they used to be. And if you're committed to this path, if you're serious about becoming stronger, calmer, and more disciplined, then make sure you subscribe to this channel. Because this is where you don't just learn how to survive. You learn how to take control. And once you take control, nothing and nobody can take it away from you.